Hey, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Ron's Revelations. I'm not sure I'm going to call these that. But I'll try it, see what it feels like. Anyway, as usual, the revelation I have today is inspired by a movie. And I have seen a lot of posts by people who are lamenting the fact that they have dear loved ones, family members, aunts, fathers, mothers, who are diehard Trump supporters. I feel your pain. And they have to live through seeing these loved ones post the most heinous things on social media. You know, one of the latest ones going around is this meme about all the crimes that George Floyd committed in his past. Memes are clearly meant to dehumanize George, because when you can dehumanize the victim of a murder, it's easier to not be as outraged at the system that caused that murder. Be that as it may, these memes and others like it are going around, all Lives Matter one as well. And when you see your loved one doing it, you're just, it breaks your heart, it drives you crazy, you don't know what to do. And oftentimes you may be moved to try to convince them that their way of looking at the situation is wrong. You might use something called facts and logic and compassion, things that for the average ordinary human would most likely work. And I don't mean to be cynical when I say this. It is just a fact that when you're dealing with a person who is that committed and devoted to a person like Trump, with everything we've already seen, facts, figures, logic, and compassion is not going to help. And so you kind of have to essentially be okay with the fact that your loved one is lost. Like, there's nothing bringing them back, unless they are able to actually get to know someone who is part of the community that is being oppressed. And so the movie that came to mind for me was Enemy Mine, with Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. I want to say it came out in the late 80s, I think. It's a sci-fi movie about humans and this alien race who are at war with one another, and they hate each other. Louis Gossett Jr. plays one of the aliens, and Dennis Quaid plays the human. And so they are in a battle, and they crash. After this dogfight in space, they both crash land on this hostile planet. And for most or a lot of the movie, they are basically still trying to kill one another. Then eventually the hardships of the planet get to the point where they both have to work together to save each other. And it turns out that Louis Gossett Jr.'s character, this alien, are actually hermaphrodites. So they or something like that, or they're either hermaphrodites, or in their world the men carry the babies. Whatever it is, Louis Gossett Jr.'s character is about to have a baby alien, and so he has the baby. And spoiler alert, I think his character dies. Anyway, the point of my story is this: by the end of the movie, the Dennis Quaid character had bonded with the Louis Gossett Jr. character, very much so, to the point where he was risking his life to save the little baby. And in the movie, he takes the baby back to the mother planet and allows the little one to go through some ritual that the Louis Gossett Jr. character would have done had he not died. It's actually kind of moving. It's a cool movie. You should look it up. I'm not sure where it's playing, but my point is this: it's an example of there would have been no Facebook posts that would have convinced the Dennis Quaid character to have compassion for the alien, and vice versa. And it was only through a lived experience that they were able to do that. And it's the same situation here. people are not going to have a compassion for the plight of people of color in this country until they really come close and live and be able to see through the eyes of someone who fits into that demographic, and to the point where they can now humanize that person, and through humanizing that person, humanize the George Floyds and the Breonna Taylors of the world. And so I guess what I'm saying to you is, if you have a loved one, a family member, just save your energy, save your sanity. You're not going to convince them. There is no amount of posts, logic, great revelatory analogies about movies and television shows that are going to change their mind. They have to actually live it. They have to get to know someone, and unless they do that, you just have to assume that this is depressing, but they're lost, that they're just never going to change. And for your own self-care, I would suggest to you that you accept that and try the best to love them if you have to, if they're a family member, and do what you can to deal with it. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. If you found it helpful, share it with someone else, and stay safe out there.
Don't you understand English, toad face?